Hey friends, it's Jessi. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project for 2023. I cannot wait to share the progress that we have made, so let's go ahead and dive into today's update. I'm just gonna be straight up. Today's update isn't gonna be as exciting as our last update, but we still have progress nonetheless, and I'm excited to show you guys all that I've accomplished in the past month. So let's go ahead and start with our oldest shade, which comes from my Colourpop Dallas Mavericks palette. And the shade that we've been working on is this top right gray shade. This is called Run and Gun. I have used Run and Gun 3 times since my last update for a grand total of 21 uses in the project. And as you can see, it is looking very loved. There is a noticeable dip in the shade. I have not hit pan on it yet, but I do want to continue to work on it because I do feel like I could have pan by the end of the year. I'm just gonna say by the end of the year because I always say by next update and then I'm not sure, but by the end of the year, I feel like I could have pan. And I have enjoyed using this palette as a whole, especially the silver and the blue shimmer shades right in the middle. I feel like they've been really fun to work into cool tone looks. As for Run and Gun, the only 3 times I used it, I believe I've actually combined it with other crease shades. I'm actually wearing Run and Gun today in today's look. I just popped it right underneath the darkest purple. So I did a lavender, a very, very pale lavender from my Jeffree Star Blood Lust. And then I did a kind of a mid-tone lavender. Then I added Run and Gun for just a little bit of depth, and I topped it all off with the Glamlite Rick Morty palette to finish off the look with these beautiful, beautiful shimmers. Today's eye look really popped off. So I'm probably going to continue to use Run and Gun that way, just kind of sneaking it into other looks, but so far we are looking pretty good. The next palette I pulled out is my Colourpop Disney Villains Misunderstood palette, and the shade we've been working on is Diablo. Diablo is this top middle shade right here. It is a beautiful green metallic. I've only used Diablo once since my last update, for a grand total of 4 uses in the project, but as you can see, it is super foily, super beautiful. I am going to continue to work on Diablo. I am currently working on several greens in this project, which you will see throughout this update, as well as a green over in my A to Z project pan. So I have been loving all the green looks, and I'm pretty sure I combined it with those looks. So I can't remember exactly how I used it, but we have 1 use on Diablo. Up next is my Oden's Tik Tok palette. This actually released earlier this year, and I rolled this in, I believe, 2 updates ago. The shade I rolled in is Driftwood, which is this bottom warm tone brown. It is beautiful. I used Driftwood 10 times since my last update for a grand total of 20 uses in the project. I have a rule that if I use a shade 20 times and I don't think I'm close to pan or I don't want to pan it any longer, I can go ahead and roll it out. And I don't know if you can tell from the progress photos, but it has been 20 uses, and the embossing, you can still see it clear as day in the pan. It does look a little more used than it did when I rolled it in, but it is still looking relatively brand new. And I don't know if I have the mental capacity to continue to pan a very deep brown shade. I use Driftwood primarily as a deepening up shade. I found it worked not only perfectly with warm neutral looks, which I've done a lot of since last update, but it also worked really good with some colorful looks. I believe I did like a pink look and buffed it into my outer corner just to add some depth. I'll have to go back and look through my pictures, but I do know that I used it with some more colorful looks as well as neutral looks. So 20 uses. I'm excited that I was able to really focus on this palette and work on it, but I do want to choose to roll this one out and pull something different into my project. So this is going to be our only rollout for today. Up next, I have my little green singles palette. This is a 9-pan palette. It is a combination of, I believe, Lunar Beauty, Colourpop, and Jeffree Star. The shade I rolled in is Star Creek, which is this top green shimmer shade. It's not quite an olive green, it's more of like a sage green. It's a really pretty shimmer. I only used Star Creek 4 times since last update for a grand total of 4 uses in the project, and I primarily use this, interestingly enough, as an inner corner shade. I found that it paired really nicely with another shade that I'm going to be talking about, and I would just do it right in the inner corner just to add a little bit of pizzazz. Like I said, I've been working on a lot of greens. I've been trying to get through the greens. I love green eyeshadow, so I'm not complaining, but I have been using that as my inner corner shade when it comes to green eyeshadow, so that is primarily how I used it. I don't believe I used it any other way. I may have used it as a lid shade 1 time, but I'm pretty sure all the uses I have on this one were inner corner highlight shades. So Star Creek is also staying in the project. Moving right along, I have a little Supershock shadow from Colourpop. This is in the shade DGAF. It is a really pretty shimmery brown. I have used DGAF 7 times since last update for a grand total of 7 uses in the project because I did roll it in last update. And as you can see, we are starting to look really loved. Supershock shadows are really easy to work through, so I'm not surprised. I'm pretty happy with the progress. So I use this shade in a few different ways. The first time I used it in this project, I actually used it as a crease shade because I didn't think it was going to be as shimmery as it is. It's actually pretty shimmery. So I used it as a crease shade. I think I used my ABH Soft Glam palette, and I just popped that boy on a fluffy blending brush, popped it in the crease and buffed it out, and that's how I used it. I found that it was a little too shimmery for that, so then I decided to try it as an all over lid shade. There was one day where I did a really dramatic smoky eye, so I did a black all over my lid and then some warm neutrals in the crease, and then I kind of ombrayed it so it was a gradient from the black on my lid all the way up to like a very pale neutral, and I topped the black on my lid with this. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really fun way to use it, and I've also tried using this as an eyeliner because it is a little shimmery. I just put it on an angled liner brush and did a little faux wing, and I actually really liked how that turned out, so I do think I might try that again. But as you can see, it is looking pretty loved. We are through some of the embossing and we do have a sizable dip right in the middle. So that was only with 7 uses. These are kind of like a cream to powder formula, so I don't think it will be very hard to work through it, and I'm sure we're going to have pan by the next update. The last shade I'm going to talk about comes from my Colourpop All Hallows Eve palette. I'm so excited to pull this one out for fall. I mean, I know I've been working on it, but now that it's fall, the shade I've been working on is Cursed, which is this top lime green shade. I used Cursed 5 times since my last update for a grand total of 16 uses in the project. And this shade I actually combined a lot with Star Creek. So I would do my initial inner corner highlight with my green looks with Cursed, and then I would top it with Star Creek. I've also used Cursed to blend out some of my deeper shades when I'm doing all green looks. And I've combined this shade a lot with my Glamlite Rick Morty palette, which is one of my current go-tos. I'm absolutely obsessed with this shade. It is starting to look a little more loved. We don't have pan yet, but I do feel like I could possibly hit pan by the end of the year. We are starting to look loved though. You can tell that there's a dip. I know the packaging is reflective, but I've used it enough times that I think you can see through the reflection to the dip. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'm gonna keep working on it, and we're going to go ahead and roll in our next shade. Here is our current color story for this next rotation. Very blue and green heavy. I feel like some cool tone looks might be on our horizon. Because we rolled out a shade, we do have one roll in today, so I have my spreadsheet right here. I did want to quick touch on my pan percentage. It has increased since my last Pan Those Eyeshadows update, even though there are no pans in this particular project. If you aren't following along my A to Z project pan, it is another eyeshadow panning project I am doing on my channel, but I have made some significant progress over in that project. So we are now at a pan percentage of 1.57%. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, our last pan percentage was 1.52. So my spreadsheet is completely updated. I haven't received any new palettes. I haven't bought any new palettes. So my current pan percentage as of today is 1.57. I'm really pleased with where we're at for pan percentage. So let's go ahead and roll in our next shade. Try and hold this up. My laptop screen is super dirty. What is that? 785. I just pulled out the palette for 785. It is the Colourpop Wild Nothing palette, and I pulled in this deep brown shade, No Bounds. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I am currently panning a dark brown in my A to Z project pan, and I don't want to repeat shades if I don't have to. So I think I am going to re-roll for today's shade. Take 2, pan those eyeshadows. 1126. 1126 comes from a different Colourpop palette. This is the Little Ray of Sunshine 9-pan palette. It is this beautiful all matte warm neutral palette, and the shade we got is Vibey, which is this nice mustard yellow shade. I think that'll be perfect for this time of year. For this time of year, I'm wanting those nice warm tones. I'm liking those mustardy fall colors, and I feel like that mustard shade and DGAF would go perfect together. So I am not mad about that. I think that is a great addition to our lineup. Let me know what you guys think. Y'all know I love to follow along on this project, so let me know if you're doing it. I would love to check your stuff out. But with that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, friends!